You need to know what to do with that dough. Let the chef show you. You need to know what to do with that dough.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Need to Know Pod. I'm your host, Chef Sahira, and in today's episode, I will be sharing with you how baking can bring people together. Like, I have a story today. Today is story time, and I just want to share with you how I would just say food brings people together in terms of how I think food is the international love language. So I think food brings people together, but specifically baking. So I'm going to tell you my story on how baking brought people together. I saw the difference. I saw the transformation on how just making something as simple as a muffin put smiles on people's faces where people weren't talking. Now they're talking because something as simple as a muffin. So this is my story time episode. So I'll be sharing a personal story. I don't know how she'll feel about this. Actually, I ran it by her and she said it was okay. So I mentioned her before, my sister. Shout out to my sister. You know who you are. I'm going to tell a story of how she needed a kidney transplant. And once she received it, thank God, that's where the story takes place. So the story is going to take place. We are going to be in Philadelphia. And there's a wonderful place called the Gift of Life, the Gift of Life Howie's House. And it's in Philadelphia. Wonderful, wonderful place. Nothing but praise for it. I didn't even know it existed. So let me just get right on into that. My sister, just to sum up, let's just say I'm going to make her story short in terms of how she came to need a kidney transplant. Nonetheless, she needed it. She suffered with lupus, and I think the lupus played it played a huge factor in her kidney suffering. Her kidney suffering. So she was on dialysis for about 8 years, if I'm not mistaken. She'll tell me if I'm right or wrong, but she was on dialysis for about 8 years. I remember I would say maybe when she first got diagnosed. Now we live here in New York. So when she first got diagnosed, I feel like maybe after a year or so, we took a trip to Philadelphia. She could tell you best why she chose Philadelphia. All I know is we took the train. We took the Amtrak from New York to Philadelphia, and she actually was going there for testing. It was a long day. She went for testing, and she went for testing, right? So whatever that looked like, and she wanted to get on their list. She wanted to be on their list to receive a kidney transplant. So years passed, never heard anything else about that. I don't believe she went to Philly again. If she did, it might have been once. It might have been once. But here in New York, the waiting list was so long. So I believe somebody recommended to her try to get on the list in Philadelphia. It's easier to get on the list. I'll just say that for Philadelphia. It's easier to get on the list. Uh, Apparently, a lot of people are passing in Philadelphia. So what they say less. But anyway, years pass. She's on dialysis. She continues to work and live her life, but three times out of the week, she goes for dialysis. And I remember as her number was going up, so she had her transplant in 2022. It had to be 2022, if I'm not mistaken. But in late 2021, she got a call saying, like, get ready because your number is coming up. So, like, keep your phone on. We may call you anytime, but when we call you, you need to get here. Because apparently you don't have like a week and change to get ready. We have a kidney we just got. You need to get here so we can get it in you, right? So she got the call, right? So now we fast forward to 8 years later. She gets the call that her number is up. They got a kidney and she needs to get to Philadelphia. So that's what she does. She actually took an Uber from New York City to Philadelphia because you don't want to blow that chance. She gets to Philadelphia. They give her the transplant successful. So I'm going to tell you where I come in. So once she has the transplant, she stays in the hospital for a while. I forget what hospital it was, but she stays in a hospital for a while. And when I say a while, maybe a week. so they can monitor and everything. But after that, she goes to a facility that I just think is heaven sent, such a blessing. Again, it's called the Gift of Life Howie's House. I'm going to tell you exactly who they are. Gift of Life Howie's House serves as a home away from home. That's exactly what it was. I call it like it felt like a home, but it also felt like a hotel. But it definitely felt like a home. So it's a home away from home for transplant patients and their families by providing temporary, affordable lodging and supportive services to those who travel to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania for transplant related care. Gift of Life Howie's House is a 501c3 nonprofit charitable organization. So let me just give you a little layout of what Howie's house is. After she left the hospital, she went to this house, right? The Gift of Life house. And they provided shelter, right? Lodging. She had to pay for it, but it wasn't a lot. I feel like it was maybe $40 a night. So, but you have a kitchen, they feed you, you have access to whatever's in their refrigerator. The kitchen, it was humongous. Actually, they had two big kitchens, and you were able to go in there and prepare. Local restaurants would donate. So they fed the transplant patients as well as their families. They had a lounge area. It just was wonderful. The room was set up so she had two beds in there like a hotel room. So that's how she lived. She lived there for I guess about a month. So I came in about week 2. She stayed there. My mom and my other sister went there to stay with her. I came in about week 2. So as she is still recovering, she still has to make these appointments to go to the doctor. They even had van service to take her to this hospital. So she couldn't eat because she had to get tested. So she couldn't eat until after they took her blood. We were going, I feel like we went twice a week. So they had this beautiful communal kitchen that the staff would use, the residents would use. I mean, they cleaned it all the time. So even though the staff did prepare food, to me, I am very particular. So I know that she was eating before I got there. Sometimes she wouldn't eat as much because she didn't care for what they were making that day. So, sometimes you order out. And so once I got there, I knew that we were going to be there cooking food. There was no way in the world that we were going to order out every day. Like I said, the local restaurants would come and prepare food, which I thought was such a blessing. And then whatever was left over, it goes in the refrigerator. You had access to the kitchen 24 hours a day. We took a trip one day after her hospital run, and we went to the supermarket. I think it was a giant supermarket. Nonetheless, we bought all this stuff because we needed to make sure we had food. I like to eat breakfast every day. um, so we just did a whole bunch of shopping, seeing that we were going to be there for a while. And you even had space in the refrigerator. You had your own section of the refrigerator. So these were commercial refrigerators. So maybe you had like a shelf to yourself or a section of the shelf to yourself. I was cooking for her. I definitely made sure that she needed to eat. So I was preparing the dinners and the breakfast. But I kept saying, like, I need something sweet in here. We need something to eat. But what happens was, so when you would come down, they would serve food, let's say around 6 o'clock. The residents would come down. And sometimes people were there by themselves, or maybe sometimes people were there by themselves, or it just wasn't a whole lot of talking going on. What I noticed, a lot of people weren't talking, everyone was to themselves. Some people were even there because their family members were still in a hospital. So this gift of life allowed them to stay there and go back and forth to see their loved ones. My sister had a kidney transplant, but there were patients who had heart transplants, lung transplants. Actually, when we were leaving, a young boy came in there. He was 11 years old and he had just had a heart transplant. I about to die. I just was just so emotional seeing this guy, and he came in there with his older brother. That's a whole nother story. But so back to the muffins, right? So as we stayed there for about a week or so, maybe like the second week, and like I said, as you come down to dinner, people aren't really talking. Uh, People are just trying to be well. People are just trying to be well. But I did notice that my sister was getting better with each passing day. So next time we made a store run, I said, I want to make some muffins. I want to make some muffins because what they would do is either buy some kind of muffins or someone would donate something. But the stuff that they did have to for me was not something I was willing to eat. So I felt like I can come in here, make some muffins, and share it with everyone. And that's what I did. So the first day I made some blueberry muffins. And as you walk around the kitchen, you start to see some of the familiar faces. And it was like a community because you start to ask like, oh, how's your husband doing? Or, they're still in the hospital. And, some people were doing better than others, so some people you see leave because not so much that their time was up, but they were doing better. So now that they were cleared to go home. So my sister definitely stayed. I would say she stayed roughly 4 to 6 weeks because you got to get cleared by the hospital because you have to go. She was going every week, and I think she left when she was able to go maybe every 2 weeks to the hospital. So I decided I was going to make some muffins. So I think the first muffin I made was some banana nut muffins. I don't think I put nuts in it. I gotta double check. Because most times I won't make a muffin if I don't know people have a nut allergy. But I did a version of a banana muffin. Let's just call it a banana muffin and a blueberry muffin. And what was so great about that is that I made the muffins, I sat them out, and it seemed like a veil was lifted. People were talking, and people who really kind of was off to the side. Something as simple as a muffin brought the people together. When people they ate their food and it's like they were standing around waiting for the muffins because you actually can smell the muffins baking and you can see they were so excited. I don't want to say that maybe they was excited because something different to eat or something good. But when I tell you, it seemed like they even formed a line like, "Oh, the muffins are done. Let's go." And it just uh, warmed my heart and my soul to see that these people who it just seemed like it brought a light, it brought some light to them. And I just was so grateful for that. And I believe that is what the power of food, baking, because even though they had food, they really didn't have dessert or snacks there or something sweet, I should say. They really didn't have anything sweet. And the muffins were so easy. And when I tell you, I was in heaven because again, they had this great big commercial kitchen. Not really a commercial kitchen. They had commercial stuff like their refrigerators and stuff. But the kitchen was a nice kitchen. I wouldn't say it looked like a commercial kitchen because it didn't. It didn't. But they made it so that it was comfortable and very easy to use their facilities. But what they did have was everything that I'd say you should have as a baker. So they had muffin pans, they had a spatula, they had baking cups. And for me, when I go and want to bake someplace, I'm always figuring out first of all, muffins is one of the easiest things you can make if you have a muffin pan. But muffins are very simple, so it doesn't require that you have a mixer or a lot of great equipment. But you do need a mixer. You do need a muffin pan. I whipped up those muffins, and I'm telling you, people. One lady in particular, she was just really quiet. I believe maybe her son was there. She didn't talk too much, but I'm telling you, those muffins, people were talking. Just made all the difference in the world. And once I saw that, I left some muffins as we left. I made the blueberry muffins, and they even had aprons. For those of you who will watch this on YouTube, I'll show you. I'll try to find that picture of myself with the muffins in the apron. But it just was very emotional. It was just very emotional for me, for people who, being there for a week, seeing people who just weren't really smiling. They just were just trying, like they just they needed something to lift their spirits up. Everybody kind of had the same look, just trying to survive, trying to make it, praying for their loved ones. And that was it. But so I do believe I've seen it, like I said, I've seen it firsthand how the power of food, something as simple as muffins brought everybody together. Just the workers and people were talking about it. They were talking about these muffins that were so easy to make, but it just was very emotional. It was just very emotional for me, for people who, being there for a week, seeing people who just weren't really smiling. They just were. They needed something to lift their spirits up. Everybody kind of had the same look, just trying to survive, trying to make it, praying for their loved ones. And that was it. But so I do believe I've seen it, like I said, I've seen it firsthand how the power of food, something as simple as muffins brought everybody together. Just the workers and people were talking about it. They were talking about these muffins that were so easy to make. That was the thing that brought people together. Muffins. So that was my story. That's my story time. And for the record, my sister is, I think January should be her third year, her transplant versary, and she is doing well. So God is good. So I say all that to say, when I think about it, just the time that it took. She was on dialysis for 8 years. So, like I said, she is doing well, and she ate good. She had her sister there, but, I was making sure she ate good because certain things, specifically like liver, I made liver because she needed to get her iron up, and just so she can eat. She needed to eat. She Certain things she couldn't have. So it just was a really trying time, but I'm glad I was able to be there for her to help her along her recovery journey, yeah, so I'm glad I was there to be able to support her during that journey. But also, again, muffins is one of the easiest things that you can make. I will say that just spending that time with her, I realized that as adults, yeah, I grew up with her, but as adults, I don't think I ever spent the night with her. So it was a little interesting, kind of like us rebonding. It was like us bonding all over again because there was things that, you know, I learned about her, and I'm sure she learned about me. We can speak on the phone all the time, but you don't necessarily stay in the same space with your sibling for weeks at a time. So you do learn you do learn about them. You do learn things. You learn it idiosyncrasies, like what they like, what they don't like, or oh, so that's what you do, So, but anyway, so that was really that was a nice time for us to kind of bond. As well as, we had a routine in the morning. We go down and make our coffee. They had a coffee machine. The coffee was decent. It was decent. We would have our coffee. I would make the breakfast, and so it was nice. It was nice. I really, really I can't say enough about the gift of life. It just really was a special place, and I'm grateful they provided a service like that, because how would we go back and forth to Philly from New York? That it would be too stressful. It just was something. So if anybody who, I would say, in the New York area, actually, my sister had a friend who was in need of a transplant. She also was on dialysis. And my sister referred her to that place. That lady got her transplant within a year. Within a year. New York's waiting list for a transplant is outrageous. Outrageous. I actually had a girlfriend who years ago, I don't know if Pennsylvania has dibs on transplants, but years ago in the 90s, she needed a kidney transplant. She lived here in New York, and she went to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania to receive her transplant. So it started out as just me deciding to make some muffins in the kitchen. I love being in different kitchens, but what started out as me just making some muffins, something as simple as mixing. I always say, right, muffins are really the easiest thing to make. You mix your dry ingredients with your wet ingredients, boom, you got a muffin. You determine what you want to put in there. That's as easy as it gets. But something as simple as that sugar, flour, maybe an egg or two, and they had everything. I did have to buy the blueberries though, the blueberries and the bananas, but um, they had everything for the most part, and it just really made a difference. So that is my inspiration for this episode, and that just concludes. Really, just I want to wanted to share how bacon or food, but in this particular case, bacon brings people together, and it really it's not just so cliche. I actually witnessed it in real time for myself, and it was amazing. It was amazing, and just the bacon actually put smiles on people's faces. I'll never forget that, and I hope that you have something that you can make. Learn how to make. Look at my channel, my YouTube channel, Chef Sahira Speaks, and I show you how easy it is to make muffins. So, one quick story. So, I tell you about the muffins, but really quickly, I'll just tell you about a story on food. I just feel like food brings everybody together. But sometimes something as easy as food, if there's somebody who is in need, or people bring food to funerals, and if somebody's not feeling well. So I'll just share a quick story with you how a friend of mine, her partner passed, and I didn't realize it until some time. I didn't realize it until some time, maybe like a month or two later. So once I realized it, I reached out to her to ask how she was doing. She actually was a she's actually our councilwoman here. And so when I reached out to her to see how she was doing, she said she didn't have time to really kind of like grieve and go through the motions because she was still working. She was still working. So I asked her, like, "Are you eating?" She didn't have time to eat. She was just moving, keeping moving, 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 just busy, busy, busy. So I took the time to prepare a meal for her, and I'm not sure, it might have been during COVID, but I just specifically remember saying, "I'm gonna bring you like a Sunday dinner." And I forget whatever I made, but I took the trip, and she must live maybe like 15 minutes away from me. And I took a trip just to bring her some food so she could at least relax, at least enjoy. And she did. And I know for a fact that she was appreciative of that. So think about that. If sometimes something as simple as food can put a smile on people's face or make them feel better. For me here, for me, my I'm here in South Carolina at my girlfriend's house. She actually Her beautiful kitchen, love her kitchen. So I've been playing in her kitchen all day, every day, and it's so easy. She can cook, but she really doesn't. So she is loving the fact that I'm in here making breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks. So I'm trying to figure out what I'm gonna make here today. But food definitely brings people together. So I'm going to end it here. But that is it. That concludes this episode of Need to Know Pod. Thanks for listening to this special episode of Need to Know Pod with me, Chef Sahira, the storytime version. And if you have a story about how bacon has brought people together in your life, I would love to hear about it. You can share with me on any one of my social media platforms, or email me at needtoknowpod@gmail.com. Also, we don't have a baking question today. Feel free to submit your baking questions that I can answer for you. Again, need to know pod@gmail.com. So feel free to share some of your baking stories with me. Share how that has helped you, helped someone else out, brought people together. And you can just tag me at Chef Sahira Speaks or Need to Know Pod on YouTube. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. Rate this podcast, share, tell everybody that they need to know about Need to Know Pod. And let's keep baking and connecting one recipe at a time. So, like always, thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.
You need to know what to do with that dough. Let the chef show you. You need to know what to do with that dough. Let the chef show you.